So let's start. So happy to have you there, people. So it won't be a very long session or live event or whatever. So be indulgent. It's my first one. So for most of you, you know all of me. So I won't go through the Argyll Scott presentation or myself presentation. The real purpose of today is really to give you some insights about the market, about what's happening at the moment, and try to answer your question as much as I can. If I succeed to get back on the chat. So I've prepared a couple of slides as a frameworks for you to be aware, to be able to follow what I'm saying. If at some point you cannot follow or if something is unclear, let me know, okay? So yeah, let's get into the topic, the real topic of today. So data science, what's happening in the markets right now. So before we get into the core of the topic, let me introduce the different topics that I will talk about. So first, that the key challenges of the companies today in data, what are the struggle, what's happening in the market today. So next question is, does the hiring have really slowed down? And yes, if they have slowed down, is it in every sectors? Third question, which sectors have been impacted? Meaning that they have some sectors more than others who have been impacted today in the market in Hong Kong. So we'll mostly focusing the talk on Hong Kong rather than Asia, because Hong Kong has a very specific place in Asia, but all the details, the market insight that I share with you might be also applied to Singapore at some extent. And I will try to do a difference between Singapore and Hong Kong, but we will only talk about Hong Kong most of the time. Then after, since we have the overview of the market, we will talk about how the people have coped to work from home, even if it's supposed to finish from next week, and how the hiring process have changed along the different weeks and the different months. And a question has been brought to one of my candidates: how does the Hong Kong market looks like for expats, for people from overseas who wants to join the Hong Kong? Just simply as that, people from US, people from Europe, eventually people from Singapore or from any other Asian countries. What's the struggle? Does the market, has it changed, yes or no, for expats? And then maybe the last important thing for you as a candidate, what about the recovery? The recovery, because we all know that in Hong Kong at the moment we are in a recession. But what about the recovery? When the experts can foresee the recovery in Hong Kong on the economical side, on the hiring side, on the data technical side? So I will try to break down all my knowledge. Obviously, I don't have audiences. I'm not an expert on every field, but I will share with you my insights about the market. So is it now 37? I will start to go deep into the project. So as an introduction, I'm sure if you attend to this event, you are very familiar with the fact that this couple of weeks, this couple of months will be through a rough time in Hong Kong, meaning that from Chinese New Year to now, the market have started to turn. So normally what's happening on the normal time is you have Q3, Q4. In Q4, there is less jobs because the companies are closing the headcounts. And normally what's happening in the market, it's in Q1, just after January, just after Chinese New Year, there is normally kind of a boom. So the companies hire again, and there is more jobs in the market. And from mid Q1, from February to June, there's a lot of new jobs in the market, especially last year and the year before in data, in analytics, and data science. There was a lot of new roles. Every companies were hiring, and it was great. This year, what happened? Obviously, the protests start in June, but the market in data haven't been totally affected because the company was still hiring. And then Q4, so yes, a more intense protest, but the market was still there. December, yeah, started to slow down. January, definitely quiet. And February, guess what? The virus. So how the company have dealt with the virus? That's the whole question. So first chapter, the key challenges that the company's data clients are currently facing. So I've used the present on purpose because the companies are still struggling. So how have the protests affected data hiring last year? When did the shift really happen? Why and where? And what does it mean, sorry, for current and future hiring? So this is what I said on the first note on the protest. The protests have started to affect the decision process, meaning that the companies, they have started to slow down to hire. So I will go on the second part about the sectors, but some companies have slowed down more than others the hiring process, especially the medium size and the small ones, because they saw their outcome reduced. So normally they didn't have necessarily the budget to really invest into data, to do more R&D, because at the end of the day, data analytics, data science, and even though data engineering and data governance, they serve the business. But at some point, if you start to hire those people, it's very R&D. If you start a team, if your team is more established, then yes, you can have the returns on investments. So end of the year, companies are started to hire a bit less, but just slightly less. And the shift, as I said previously, have already happened in Hong Kong in most of the companies. Maybe not totally in early Feb, because early Feb there were still a lot of jobs on the market. But from mid-Feb, end of Feb, March, you all have noticed that there is a slowdown, a massive slowdown of the companies. If you were involved yourself into any processes, then yes, there was a slowdown. Oh, sorry, we put on hold the process. Sorry, we cannot not hiring, so we put on hold the process. And I even chatted with a candidate. He had an offer from a virtual bank, and unfortunately, he had accepted already the offer, and they postponed the onboarding to July. So even if you had the offer, even if you accepted within the decision process, end of February, he has been impacted. Why and where? So where he has been in Hong Kong, he has been in mainland China, Singapore. I think they have started to see the effect maybe March rather than February, because you have to be aware that in Hong Kong we have felt the effects of the virus among the first countries like South Korea. So yeah, why? The question is, so it's not all about that the companies that didn't want to hire. It's more that they have preferred to see what happens in the next month rather than get on board someone and don't really manage the onboarding. So they were kind of on hold, but not necessarily on the financial side, on the financial aspect. They were also waiting because of the virus. So it was just, oh, let's wait 2 weeks, 1 month, eventually 1 month from, let's wait Q2. Because February we were still in Q1, so they were telling themselves, oh, let's wait March, let's wait April to see how it goes, and let's wait that the market recover a bit to really onboard someone in the proper way. So at the beginning, it was really about let's wait. But at some point in March and April, for some of the companies, it has shifted about, oh, it's not we wait, it's just that we cannot reach our customers as before, so we don't have a cash income as before. For some of the companies, could be startup, could be financial services. So I'm sure you have been aware of big financial services where lay off a massive number of people. They didn't have the cash income, so they had to lay off people, so they couldn't afford to onboard people. So how it is that impacted the market is we shifted from, oh, let's wait, to, oh, we cannot onboard because we don't have the cash, we don't have the money. So this is the challenge that the companies have faced these last few weeks. So I've spoken to hiring managers in every sectors, and to be very honest with you, every sectors have been impacted. So this is the next point. Has hiring slowed down in all sectors? All sectors, yes, all sectors have been impacted. So I'm sure you have been aware, you have watched the news, maybe US news, and everything. It was saying that, oh, the tech sectors is still hiring. Yes, that's great. But at the end of the day, if you look at the news now, even the tech sectors in the US is impacted at what's happening. Even the companies in e-commerce companies are impacted. So it's all about the breakdown, which sectors are more impacted. The first answer that I would like to share on this one is yes, all the sectors are impacted. You have to be aware that retails, obviously, and customer type of companies are impacted. Why? Because it has started from last year. Last year with the protests. You're not naive. You know already that the companies F&B could it be very retail, very customer. They have been impacted by the lack of customer, by the fear of the people going to the market. So those companies have less cash to invest into more R&D and more companies. So supply chain, logistic, traditionally, it's not a sector. They are not a sectors where data analytics and data science is strong. Data analytics and data science is eventually strong in financial services, strong in telecom, in telco, in a bit of some of the companies, couple of companies in energy, but most of the time the very core and the most advanced teams in Hong Kong are within financial services, because it could be banking, could be insurance, could be finance. So that's the third point. So what about retail and customer like telco? They have been heavily impacted because their teams, the data teams support only the business. They see data only as a way of supporting the business. So it's very R&D. They're not producing a lot of value add for the business. So all the projects, all the hiring have been put on hold. So I'm not saying that those companies were not hiring. I'm saying that most of the companies were not investing into data enough to hire a lot of new headcounts. E-commerce and tech companies, to be very honest with you, I have an interesting story to share. One of my colleagues approached me For beauty, wealth, health companies saying that, oh, Paris, you will see that company is amazing and we have massively invested into digital. So it's one of the biggest beauty, health, and wealth company in Hong Kong. So I picked up the job. It was a senior data science manager role. I was super happy. And then 10 years later, they're telling me that they put the role on hold, meaning that because of what's happening, even though they were very strong in e-commerce and in that tech digital platform, because they have been impacted on the financial side, they put the role on hold. So this is what happened. So it could be e-commerce, you could be tech, you could be retail, you could be whatever you want. Companies have been impacted by the companies, and I will even say the smaller and medium companies have been more impacted than the richest companies, meaning that you have a couple of a conglomerate and rich company in Hong Kong who have the shoulders to absorb the financial shock of the virus, and then they can still hire, but some of the companies are not financially stable enough or have been too impacted, and this is why they put the role on hold. What about banking, insurance, and finance? Obviously, the finance, all my candidates have told me, oh, Paris, I love finance, I want to go finance, I love money, I want to go more money. And yes, it is true that in finance, you can find a very interesting role, you can do very deep learning, very interesting modeling, and advanced data science compared to other companies. But today, finance is suffering even more than any traditional financial services, because the market is going crazy. They have layoff. I've received a number of calls from managers, from hedge funds, or from finance companies say, oh, Paris, I'm a bit worried about the situation. We have lost a lot of money. And now I'm being open to the market compared to like 6 months ago where it was still fine. So I think for finance, the situation will only be temporary, to be honest. But finance is one of the sectors who has been heavily impacted. Banking and insurance. Insurance, my favorite sectors, as everybody knows. I've seen a couple of insurance companies who have put on hold as well their projects. So the major insurance companies in Hong Kong, the international ones, if it wasn't Pâris 17, which is a regulatory obliged compliance type of project, a lot of them, and it was kind of sometimes regional or sometimes very local politics to put all the role on hold. So the most of the job that you can see, sometimes they were from I don't know, January, February, sometime before the freeze. So this is why there were still low lives. Banking, same as insurance, they put on hold their roles because they are suffering at the moment. So the virus has been global. No sectors have been spared by this. So as I said, it's a matter of sector, of maturity in data. So if it was a company who have started the projects very recently, in data project very recently, most of the time they were seeing this data team as very new, very R&D, so it wasn't critical for them to hire. So how the data professional have been copying from home? I work from home, you work from home, so you know what I've been through. For some of my candidates, we have started to work from home until since early Feb, since the virus has escaped from mainland China. So you have to be also aware that the whole work from home prevents you to have a very efficient hiring process. So all the companies in Hong Kong work from home. So yes, Now today, I think 60–80% of companies have at least put in place a work from home policy. So most of the companies today are caring about their employees, and they put a work from home policy. So hopefully next week, people will start to come back to do it. For some of you, there was a kind of a rotation. So people were started to go to the office maybe a few days per week. But for most of the people, it was a full work from home or a mid work from home, and it wasn't easy for all of you. And every time I call someone, I ask them, "Oh, how do you feel?" Because it's not easy. Like the flats in Hong Kong are not massively big. Sometimes you have the children, sometimes you have the wife, sometimes you have the family. So it's not easy to work and to focus. So what does it mean for the business? It means that people, for some of them, it has been beneficial. For some of them, they were more efficient working from home. But it means that you cannot join your colleagues. You cannot share that easily the information that you have on the business, on the project, on everything, and on the hiring. Let's say you put, I don't know, you interview as a hiring manager. So let's put the hiring manager point of view. You put a hiring manager perspective. It's not easy to just call the HR and say, "Oh, I have an interview with the HR, a quick debrief with the HR. Say, oh, I like the candidate, please let me go." So because of the all work from home, so you have to do a lot of phone calls, so you don't necessarily want to share. So you have to do a long review of the candidate, which is annoying. So you don't necessarily do it. So the hiring manager and the HR, some of them, they were more responsive. For some of them, they were definitely slower. So this is the truth. So how is that impacted the hiring manager mindset? They were telling themselves that it's not the good time for hire. It's not a purpose situation because it's too hard to do a process. The hiring manager most of the time in Hong Kong, they prefer to meet face to face. And this is also my next point. How's the hiring process have changed? So yes, if you have been into any hiring process these last few months, so yes, you have done a phone call, you have done eventually a call, but it's not the same that going to the office of the interviewer, feeling the environment, meeting face to face the person. So yes, it's a first date, first taste of your new job, but it's also very hard to accept a new job as a candidate if you haven't met the person. So yes, you can do it face to face. I placed someone, he never met any of the hiring manager. Is for an insurance company. He never met physically any hiring manager, any HR. Was all by video screen. So yeah, for some candidate, for some roles, it can work. But you still have a barrier. And I know Hong Kong people are people who want to share. Most of the time, they prefer to meet face to face, having this building relationship with the hiring manager. So ask the person, ask the question by yourself: would you hire personally someone without having met your employee? So it's a question about the mindset of the hiring managers that you have to think. So Hong Kong mindset for me, because the city has a very good commuting and transport system, people are very used to meet physically. You jump onto Ding Ding, you jump into a taxi, and then you meet the person, you build a bond, a relationship. So there is a strong DNA in Hong Kong to meet the person face to face. What does the market look like for expats and traveler from overseas? It's a tough question because for me, expat and people from overseas have always been strong within consulting, meaning that the sectors where you have the more chances to get a job as a foreigner, as an expat. When I say expat, is people who want to come to Hong Kong, or eventually you, if you want to go abroad, I don't know, Singapore, Thailand, US, Europe, or whatever. Consulting has always been the type of companies who are definitely want to invest into skills rather than speaking languages, because you jump from a project to a project, and then they will just rely on your technical skills rather than, oh, can you speak Mandarin? Or you are from HKUST, HKUST, so you must have this mindset. So consulting is all about projects. So is there a shifting trend? So I haven't talked about it earlier, but consulting has been also very impacted by the business, because it makes sense, right? End users companies, final clients have been impacted, so they were more keen on working on consulting that they're considering as a R&D type of project, or digital project, ongoing project for the future. So is there a shifting trend? So yes, because the consulting company were hiring less, the whole expat market have been slowed down. So obviously you're not naive as well. You can also imagine that because Hong Kong was stopping his travelers to come from overseas, it was definitely hard to even to consider to have a physical interview in Hong Kong if you don't have any PR, any visa, or anything. So which company are hiring from overseas? So as I answered the question, so most of the time it's consulting. So financial services are also massively hiring from overseas, especially banking and insurance, but most of the time it's for senior positions. So meaning that for junior and mid experienced candidates, most of the time they don't bother too much with expats or overseas candidates. From very niche, very senior candidate, then yes, they could go for expats and overseas. What is the status today? Today it has been on hold, obviously, and I think that for expats, hiring expat will even take more time than hiring local people from Hong Kong, because the whole visa and the whole situation, traveling situation, will take more time. Does the situation have a chance to change in next week? I think I will couple this question with my next question. So recovery, when and how? A recovery for me. So I'm a pretty optimistic person, to be honest. I do generally think that the market in Hong Kong in data will start to recover in May. So I've made a market watch yesterday, and I've seen a couple of rules being back on the market. So I'm not saying that everybody will go green light and say, okay, we have stopped the froze on the market. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that thanks to the government's announcement today, saying that people will start to resume to work from next week, I think it will create a spark for the hiring to getting back on track. I do generally think that yes, Hong Kong companies have been hit in the economical side, but I also do think that Hong Kong companies, HR and obviously hiring manager, they were on hold to see, oh, what will happen? What will happen? So now we know that we might be in this kind of various situation for the next couple of weeks, for the next couple of months. So we have reached 3 million, fortunately, very sad numbers, 3 million infected people globally, 1 million in the US. The numbers in Singapore are reaching 14K. So we know that the situation might be stable in Hong Kong, but it might have a third wave, a fourth wave in the next couple of months. So now it's trend in the market. So we know that we can face this kind of situation, and the whole virus situation could be unknown. So I think because the companies will resume to work and people will start to talk again, they won't not just wait anymore. Now they know the situation. Now they know that it can happen. So I do think that the companies said, okay, so now we know what the virus looks like. Now we know that we can hire, and it might change our process and everything. But yeah, we want to hire again. Of course, the tricky part is there is the Hong Kong politics, but there is also the regional and the global politics, meaning that for some companies, it won't be immediate. That's a third point, because for some companies, the headquarters, it's all about the decision are taken in the headquarters. So the headquarters could be in the US, could be in Europe, and in those two regions is still crazy. So most of the time, APAC, Asian offices are pretty independent. But if the headquarters in the US or in Europe say, oh, freeze, then they will have a freeze even in APAC. But to be very honest with you, if they still want to operate their work, normally they should hire again. So my vision is, yes, in May, maybe not from next week, but from mid-May, the market will really recover. June will be better. June, end of Q2 will be better, and Q3 hopefully will be back as normal. As when I say normal, I'm not saying like last year, because I arrived last year in Hong Kong, as you all may know, and last year was big. Don't expect the market to be as good as last year, but who knows? Maybe a lot of companies have prepared, have waited to definitely just invest into data, and maybe in May, end of May or June, you will see a surge of many roles who have waited for many months for Q1 and for Q2 to hire. But I don't think so. I think there will have, yes, more jobs, but it will be step by step, because data now it's all about helping the business, and the business have been affected. So because it's a very R&D type of jobs for most of the companies, it won't be as big as sales or other business lines. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the recovery. I think that's the most important part, to be prepared. The piece of advice, so it's almost the end of my time. The piece of advice that I can give to you is be passive on the market, meaning that it might not be a time where you will be called by other recruiters like me every day, anytime. Oh yeah, I have a new job, I have a new job, I have a new job. But my advice is screen the market. Try to learn about the market, which companies have been impacted, which company is still hiring, yes, but also which company would you like to join in the next few months, because it's all about getting to know your market. It's all about knowing your market and knowing which type of companies have which projects. And for this, to know your market, you have to talk to experienced recruiters in the market. So I'm not saying myself now, but when you talk to recruiters, he asks you, oh, which company do you want to go? I think a lot of them don't know the market. They don't know the project. They don't know the culture. They work with that company because it's a financial services or retail company or commerce company, but they don't know the data culture, and they don't know the data project. So my advice is, if you have a recruiter over the phone, ask them about the culture, ask them about the ongoing projects, ask them about how the virus has been affected the business and also the team, because it will be very important for you to have all the insight before you jump into any hiring process. Because if you don't have all the answers, if you are unprepared, it might be hard for you to get the job. Because you also have to be aware that a lot of you have been open to the market, and now, because a lot of companies have been put on hold, put on hold their jobs, even the hiring managers, even the very senior people, almost everybody is open to new opportunities. So I'm not saying that everybody in Hong Kong is open to opportunities. I'm saying that there's more people open to new opportunities. So you will face also more competition in the next few months. So be prepared. So yeah, that's it. I hope it has been useful. I will try to trigger the chat conversation. If you have any question, feel free to message me. Could be by email, could be by WhatsApp. Or Pâris, you didn't you didn't get into that question. I would love having your insights about it. Feel free to message me. I'm working on Thursday and Friday, so yeah, happy to try to answer your questions. So yeah, that's it. I hope you have enjoyed the sessions. Always there to try to answer your questions. Take care of yourself, enjoy this weekend, and let's keep in touch.